Lamont. I see you, Lamont. Lamont that way Jones. Raw and uncut.
Yo, 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 yo. What up? What it do, YouTube? Yep, that's right. It's your boy. It's that boy, Lamont, that way Jones, back in the building. Yep, you heard it right. It's that boy they call Lamont, that way Jones, back in the building. You dig? And with that being said, my good people, I just wanted to thank everybody who decided to stop and rock with that boy they call Lamont. That way, Jones, this way. You dig? Now, with that being said, my people, topic of discussion is when it comes to the real truths of the world that we live in today. And with that being said, my people, this will be segment number 5 when it comes to the real truths of the world we live in vids that you will find only on the Lamont That Way Jones channel. You dig? Now, my people, with that being said, before, you know, I decide to enlighten my people's minds again before I start this vid, this is one of the things, I just want to mention, a couple of the things that's really, gotten to me and really like just really tripped me the hell out like to the fullest. And that is when it comes to this pandemic that the whole entire world is going through. What really gets me is, okay, think about this, my people. Don't get me wrong. Now, I know that this election thing is important to a lot of people. See, I used to be one of those people that thought elections was every damn thing. Until I continued to study and do research on when it comes to the real truths of the world that we live in today, because I'm the type of person that does not like to be lied to. Okay? Not saying that I ain't never told a lie in my life, but as I got older, I finally realized that it's not good to lie to someone, because if you do, it's eventually going to come back on you, okay? Now, and the reason I say that is this, okay? You got these people, still worried about a damn election when it's a world pandemic, a crisis, whatever you want to call it, going on right now. And the reason I say that is this is my thing. How could you still be focused on a damn election when you should be focused on how you are going to serve your country as being a political leader, if you will? Okay, like that should be the number one thing, you know, if you are a politician of any sort of any when it comes to any type of country. If you know where I'm going with this, if you dig what I'm saying, okay? Like I don't see how they could still be focused on the damn election. I mean, I don't understand. Okay. They put everything else on hold, like sports and all that stuff. That can get put on hold too, man. We're going through a pandemic. People are dying every day behind this, and they're still focused on a damn election. Just like Dr. Fossey or whatever his name is, you know, he wants to say, that um, he's starting to see from the advice that he recently got from the Chinese. In other words, this guy was pretty much saying, and I'm not gonna let you guys. I'm not gonna put y'all up on that just yet. That's coming on the next video because I also got a second part to this video that I'm about to enlighten you guys on as well, coming right behind this. You dig? But anyway, this guy actually had a press conference earlier saying that he ended up getting um, some advice from the Chinese saying, well, in other words, he was talking about how they were telling him how since the majority of their coronavirus cases have you know been going like downhill, however you want to put it or whatever. He was saying how they were the only new cases that they were starting to see was from imports. In other words, they were from people that were coming in from other countries. Okay, this is my thing. Why are you continuing to let other people come in from your country from other countries just because it's going down to your country? I mean, that's stupid. Y'all know that this thing is still, they know that this thing is still, you know what I'm saying, in full, fledged or whatever. But anyway, he was saying that this thing could end up being seasonal. In other words, like come back like might as well say spring, because this is springtime or whatever. Because you know Trump was saying, or should I say, I remember when Trump was saying that, yeah, it's eventually going to die down whenever, it gets hot or whatever, when he thought that he already had full control of this thing, when was nowhere near in control of this thing, okay? And I should have known then, I should have got a vibe then, and then don't forget they're also using this drug that they use for malaria that they claim that's supposed to ease the effects of this disease, if you will. I should have known that too. You know, not only does this play a huge role in Agenda 21, this also means, payday for these giant, huge pharmaceutical companies who, that actually get paid to sell what they would call prescription legal drugs, if you will. You see what I'm saying? Now, and I should have known. Then on top of that, what's like I said, so crazy and puzzling to me is how they are continuing to still, you know, worry about a damn election during these times, which also lets me know that a lot of these politicians pretty much know what's going on as well. But that's scary to actually just, know this information that, you know, Mr. What's his name? Fossey, Dr. Fossey, however you pronounce his name. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. But anyway, uh, he was pretty much saying that the Chinese let him know in so many words that um, you guys best to do this, take the same steps and precautions that we're taking, because it looks like until a vaccine or cure or whatever is found for this disease, is that it's going to pretty much continue to come back every season. In other words, they told Mr. Dr. Fossey, oh, like I said, I hope I'm pronouncing this name right. They told him this recently, like, hey, if you don't, if you guys don't prepare yourselves, when it comes to, you know, the different seasons, until the cure is, in other words, brought out, which I already know they probably already have anyway, then you better pretty much treat it like that, or guess what? You're never going to be able to stop it, in other words. So, isn't that scary to know that this thing could stick around at a certain time every year? It goes away during the summer, then comes back. I mean, that's very scary to think, about that. You got to worry about a disease that can actually come back every certain point of a certain season every year until they decide to put out a cure, for this disease. And that's really spooky, to know something like that, my people. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, wow, until then, I guess they're going to let the pharmaceutical companies, continue to cash in, off this malaria drug that they're claiming is starting to be a shortage to the people that really need the drug for the people that really has malaria. And I think that's terrible. But that, like I said, it's all part of their cycle. Anyway, you guys, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys check out. Now, this guy I'm about to let you guys hear, he goes by the name of Dr. Ray Hagins. I'm sure some of you people already know about this guy, heard about this guy, but when it comes to telling the real truths of the world, he pretty much nails it. You dig?
Oh man, I'll tell you the truth. I am really enjoying talking about what I've been sharing with you for the last couple of weeks. I know that the messages have not been what we call evangelistic messages, but most of y'all have heard that all your life anyhow. Right now, brothers and sisters, you need to know what's going on in your world that you live in. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about disaster by design. I think you heard that on the radio last Sunday, if you weren't here. Last week, we talked about the emergency powers of the President of the United States, which aired this morning on the radio. Today, I want to continue in the same vein so that we as Africans can catch up to what's going on in our society. I want us to come up to speed to what's going on around us. So today I want to tell y'all really what they have been holding back from us and totally misdirected our minds into thinking something other than what really is. Today I want to talk about this subject. Who really owns and runs America? Who really owns this country? Who really runs this country? I know a lot of people think that the president does. A lot of people think that Congress does. A lot of people think that the House and Senate, which comprises Congress, I know they think that these lawmakers run the country. Brothers and sisters, I got news for you today. These people are nothing but pawns in what is called an international game of chess. Now, those of you, let me see the hands of those of you who know how to play chess. Let me see your hand. All right, well then y'all really grab right quick what I'm talking about. Those who don't know how to play chess, let me tell you, chess is a game of strategy. And in order to hope to win, you have to have some sense of strategic idea and planning. Let's talk first of all about the forms of government. Now I'm telling y'all right now, before we go any further in the message, I'm going to be doing some educating here today, okay? How many of y'all have ever heard the word Democratic before? All right. How many of y'all, by the way, in here Democrats? Let me see your hand. All right, I see some hands. How many of you ever heard the word Republican before? How many of you are Republicans? Let me see your hand. All right, mostly Democrats. Isn't it deep that most black folk are Democrats? And it's really deep because I don't think any of us really know why. But I'm going to help you understand today what that's really about. There are various forms of government, brothers and sisters. But basically, they come into two categories. Everybody say, rule by God, and the other is rule by man. Now, the first form of government, as we just said, ruled by God, is called a theocracy. Coming from the word theos, theocratic, meaning it is a government by immediate divine guidance. Under the category of rule by man, there are various forms, and I'm going to try to touch on those today. The first form of government, theocracy, ruled by God, whether we want to admit it or not, we virtually have no control, brothers and sisters, over the theocratic form of government. This is God's decision. God is the one who determines this type of government depending on her plans. Y'all heard what I said, right? I said her plans. See, ancient Africans understood that the creative force was considered the mother goddess creative force of the universe. This his idea is something that we learn from the patriarchal concept and chauvinistic mind of the European man. But since we're still in there, I'm trying to kind of help us develop into an awareness of, so we say his, her, or her a lot. Being that the theocratic form of government is determined by God, it really doesn't make much sense for me to even discuss that form of government because it's not a viable alternative. There are various forms, however, of man-made government. Some of the more common types are, everybody repeat after me, where no one rules. What's the first? The proper word for that is anarchy. When nobody rules, that's called an anarchy. In an anarchy, you have what is called lawless confusion, disorder, chaos, and turmoil. That's in an anarchy. Then you have another type of government where one man rules. That's called a dictatorship or a monarchy. In that you are liable to see what's called unlimited rule. You're liable to see something called tyranny. You're liable to see what might be referred to as a totalitarian government, wherein coercion is used to rule the people. The other type of government is where a few people rule. The proper word for that is oligarchy. Oligarchy. In an oligarchy, you have what's called a small elite group of people that rules the masses. The nobility group exercising control, and usually it's for corrupt and selfish reasons. Then you have a type of government called where the majority rules. That's called a democracy. Y'all have heard of that before, right? For you Democrats. Okay. A democracy. That consists of what is called constitutionally elected representatives. A democracy is a form of government that is traditionally controlled at the top by a small ruling group of people or oligarchy. The people in a democracy are conditioned to believe, follow what I'm saying to you people, the people in a democracy are conditioned to believe that they are indeed the decision-making power. Did you hear that? But in truth and in reality, the people are not the decision-making power. It's that small group of people at the top that makes all the decisions for the masses. In a democracy, they lie to you and tell you go vote. And the masses go vote thinking that in what's going on, when in reality, after you vote, it's still that small oligarchy at the top that makes the decision. So the only true form of government throughout history has been the oligarchy, or that rule by a minority for the majority. In the 1928 United States Army Training Manual, what year did I say? 1928. Yes. The 1928 United States Army Training Manual defines a democracy as, and I quote, a government of the masses. Authority derived through mass meeting or any form of direct expression. Sometimes, follow this good now, sometimes this definition results in what is called a mobocracy. A mobocracy. M-O-B-O-C-R-A-C-Y. You'll understand what it is. And that is actually a word. Look it up in the dictionary. A mobocracy is often confused for a democracy. The only thing, mobocracy is the mob. Oh yeah. When the mob rules, what do we mean by the mob? When you got a group of people who are unruly, lawless, and confused, that constitutes what is called a mobocracy. I'll spell it again for you. M-O-B-O-C-R-A-C-Y. The attitude in a mobocracy is that the will of the majority or the mob shall regulate based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, or without restraint or regard to consequence. There's another form of government that protects both the minority and the majority. It's called a republic. Now I ask how many Republicans were in here. I didn't see all any hands go up. Well, let me tell you about the republic. Republic defined by law is one or entity that is ruled by the law. A republic, in the Republican form of government, the power rests not in the majority, the power rests not in the mobocracy, but the power rests under the Republican form of government in a written constitution, wherein the powers of the government are limited so that the people retain the maximum amount of power themselves. So in other words, under the Republican form of government, it has nothing to do with how many people are on your side. It has to do with what does the Constitution say. In addition to limiting the power of government, care is also taken to limit the power of the people to restrict the rights of both the majority and the minority. For example, let me give you an example. Let me give you an example here of democracy, republic, mobocracy. How many of y'all have ever seen a cowboy pit? Yeah, anybody watch westerns? Okay, you've seen them, I'm sure. Whether you like it or not, I'm sure you've seen what I'm getting ready to tell you. Here's the story where this bad guy comes into town. Okay? And what he does when he gets into town is he guns down this poor, unobtrusive merchant by provoking him into a gunfight. You ever see that in the you're going to draw, or either draw on the count of three, or I'm going to shoot you anyway. One of them kind of things. So this poor, innocent merchant is out there trying to draw on this gunslinger, villain. and the villain shoots him in cold blood, as they say. Now, the sheriff down the street hears the gunshot, and he comes running to the scene, and he asks the crowd, what happened? So the crowd tells the sheriff, this man shot this man in cold blood. He wasn't doing anything. He provoked him into a gunfight and killed him. What does the sheriff do? The sheriff arrests the gunslinger, take him down the street, and lock him up in the jail, right? That's what happens, right? Y'all gonna talk back to me? All right. Now, back at the scene of the shooting, a particular individual who wants to call himself the speaker for the crowd starts telling the crowd, we need to take the law into our own hands. And we need to go down to the jail and bust him out of jail and lynch him. You've seen that type of setting, right? God knows it happened to our people enough times, and we had done nothing wrong. So, because of the influence of this brother who stood up to convince the group they could go take the law in their own hands, they all start deciding that this is the course of action that they should take. Now notice, the group now becomes a democracy. Okay? Because the majority of the people decided we need to go lynch this guy. Y'all with me? All right. Now what happens is as they go down the street, they start hollering and screaming and yelling and everything. Now the democracy becomes a mobocracy. Y'all following this thing now, right? They reach the jail and the sheriff comes out and says, what's going on out here? Now this democracy, which has now become a mobocracy, demands that the sheriff let him go so we can lynch him. The sheriff says, regardless of how many people are standing out there, the sheriff says, it's my duty to protect this man and see to it that he gets a what? Fair trial. The reason for that is because the sheriff is enforcing what is known as the Republican form of government. If it was a Democratic form of government where the people majority rules, the sheriff would have to let him go and they would lynch him. Well, the sheriff tries to show the people the law. And eventually the people realize that the sheriff is right. And they disperse and they go home. At least that's the way it ought to turn out. The Republican form of government has triumphed over the Democratic form of the mob action. Ooh, buddy, I'll tell you, there's another situation in the Bible of Republican form of government. Y'all been reading it all the time, didn't know it. There was a guy in the Bible, in the biblical text, called Jesus. And he had been arrested. And the Republican form of government was to see to it that he gets a trial. But the mob, the Democratic form of government, convinced Pontius Pilate to wash his hands and say, okay, I tried to institute the Republican form of government. Y'all insist on doing it y'all's way. Here, take the man. And what did they do? The mob took him and did what? Crucified him, right? Y'all forgot the story? Y'all ain't that far liberated, are you? It's easy, brothers and sisters, to see how a democracy can turn into a mobocracy of angry individuals if not careful. Who owns this government? The Democratic Party? The Republican Party? I got news for y'all today. There was this guy from England named Lord Halifax. I don't know why they decided to call themselves Lord and Duke and all that kind of stuff. But Lord Halifax of England said, and I quote him, "They who are of the opinion that money will do everything may very well be expected to do everything for money." You got that? I'll say it again. They who are of the opinion that money will do everything may very well be expected to do everything for money. Now, I just told y'all the whole message. I just told you the whole message. I just told you why everything that's been happening the last few weeks has been happening. You see, people, with money comes power. Now, for the unscrupulous people, nothing will stand in their way to achieve the ultimate in power. Such people are driven by greed. Now, don't interpret what I'm about to say as a racist comment. I'm just telling you the truth in what I'm about to say. It's no secret, people, that banking and the Jew go hand in hand. Did y'all hear what I said? Now, I have to be honest with you. The Jew, actually the imposter Jew, the Edomite, is uniquely gifted for commerce, business, sales, investment management, anything having to do with the money end of things attracts a significant segment of this clan called the Jews. You take names such as Rothschild, Baruch, Kuhn, Loeb, Warburg, Morgan, Goldman, Sachs, Greenspan. I knew that one would get you. Volcker. All of these names are readily recognized by the world of finance, not only in history, but even to the present day. One of the most influential forces in the government is the oil banking complex. Now, I'm going to drop stuff on y'all that our folk just ain't used to hearing. Now, I'm going to tell you why we're not used to hearing it. Let me break from my notes right quick, tell you why we're not used to hearing it. You know why? Because all we're used to hearing is what we hear at work, what we hear at church, and for those of you who still go to the bar, what you hear at the bar, or what you hear in the beauty parlor, or the barbershop. That's the realm of our experience as a people. And unfortunately, the one place that most of us go where we ought to be taught, most preachers ain't doing it. So we're stuck right where we were. Oh, come on, people. Do an inventory of yourself. And ask yourself the question, okay, I'm 35 years old, been in the church all my life. What am I learning at this point in my life that I didn't learn at 5 years old? Ask yourself that question. If you can't add any more than you learned your first 5 years of Sunday school, then you need to get your tail up out of that place and go somewhere where you can learn. I know, I ain't talking to y'all, I'm talking to folks looking at me on television. Everybody say this: big oil, and big banks, spell big trouble for the world. Now I want y'all to see how this thing is working, people. What happened in New York a couple of weeks ago? What tragedy happened? Y'all tell me. World Trade Center was destroyed, right? The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center was destroyed. And you know what they told us? They told us that the Arabs did this. They told us that Muslims did this. That's what they told us. But nobody ever asked, why would Arabs want to do that? Hey, why? Why would Arabs want to destroy the World Trade Center because they're terrorists. And that ain't answering the question. Because I don't know any terrorists greater than the United States of America. I don't know any. I mean that. What would make them, the Muslims, destroy? So we got to look. Everybody say this. We must learn to see the reality behind the appearance. Did y'all grab that? We must learn to see the reality behind the appearance. It should come as no surprise. Now, brothers and sisters, hear what I'm about to drop on y'all. This thing is deep. I'm a little tired today because I didn't get much sleep. This thing had me so charged, I didn't go to bed till almost 5 o'clock this morning. Just preparing this message because it's that awesome. Check this out. 2 of the 10 largest banks in the world are affiliated with 12 oil companies. I'm going to talk slow so you can do the math now as I speak. 2 of the 10 largest banks in the world are affiliated with 12 oil companies. Those 2 banks are Citicorp and Chase Manhattan Bank. These banks, follow this people, these banks have become tightly woven and interwoven with OPEC. Now, for those of you who don't know what OPEC is, OPEC, I'm sure you might have heard it, it stands for Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. In other words, these are the countries that got the oil. Now, because of this, it's only natural, follow this people, it's only natural that these United States banks, if all of your money in the bank is from an OPEC country, who is your allegiance going to be to? The United States or OPEC? You got that right. So what we're dealing with here is these United States banks don't have an allegiance to the United States, but rather to the international community. Now, let's create a hypothesis, even though it's not far from a hypothesis. Did you hear what I just said? All right. Just suppose that OPEC decided to pull its money out of United States banks. Now, if they pull out every cent deposited in big United States banks, it would spell disaster for this country. Well, like I said, it ain't that far from a hypothesis. OPEC had planned to do that. Now you understand why, when George Bush came into office, the first person he immediately had a meeting with was Alan Greenspan, the director of the Federal Reserve. You see, they had to talk about how they're going to compensate for all of this money being snatched out of United States banks. Y'all with me? Yeah. Y'all ain't getting scared on me now, are you? Okay, all right. Now, it's difficult for us to understand just how powerful these oil countries and international bankers are in terms of wealth. But you got to understand something, people. Y'all ever hear the phrase say, money talks? Yeah. In the end, it ain't got nothing to do with your patriotism. Not when it comes to banks, banks are in the business of making money, not being patriotic. And it's money that talks and motivates and controls the actions of nations. I'm going to blow y'all's mind with this. 90%. What did I just say, people? 90% of OPEC's money is on deposit in United States banks. Now see, we can't relate to that because most of us are broke. The most we can do is try to get some kind of an imaginative idea of what we're talking about here. But when I say 90% of OPEC's money is on deposit in the United States Bank, I'm talking about over $1 trillion. I didn't say millions. I did not say billions. I said over $1 trillion is on deposit in major United States banks by OPEC countries. Yeah, buddy. Now, so you'll understand how this works. It's deep here because the OPEC countries got their money on deposit in the United States, but the United States is not a member of OPEC. Y'all starting to see the problem now, aren't you? What countries are OPEC members? Algeria, Indonesia, Iran, Iraq, Kuwait. Now you want to know why we've been doing so much bombing? Libya, Nigeria. How many of y'all have heard about the shell situation going on in Nigeria with the Ogoni people there? Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Venezuela. These are all OPEC countries. Now, mind you, brothers and sisters, hear what I'm about to tell you. Saudi Arabia by itself is the nation with the most deposits in United States banks. Saudi Arabia has the most investments in commercial real estate in this country. Saudi Arabia has the most investments in United States government securities. Now, how did the United States allow itself to get in this predicament? How did that happen? Well, you got to understand. Let's go back and let's do some history here. In 1973, the OPEC nations raised their prices some 400%. I don't know how many of y'all remember the gas prices back then. Now, you got to understand, money started, falling in on them people because we paid the prices. The oil, their income soared from $29 billion in 1973 to $100 billion in 1974. Oil that sold for $2.59 a barrel in 1973 was suddenly selling for $10.95 in 1974. Now compare $10.95 in 1974 to today. Imagine how much higher it is now. You don't have to, if you don't know what that, just compare your gas and heating bill today to what it used to be. Now, with such a windfall in billions of dollars, these Arabs didn't know what to do with their money. They're sitting around meeting, what shall we do with our money? So guess who ran to their aid? The United States government. The United States, because of their greed, said, we'll tell you what to do with it. put it in our banks. The United States rushed over and talked them into putting it in their banks, and suddenly, banks that used to be nationally minded are now called international banks. And they became internationally minded. And with this lust for money and their newfound pot of gold at the end of the Arab rainbow, the big banks urge the United States government, now follow this thing, people, the big banks told the United States government, don't oppose OPEC. Don't fight it. They want to raise their prices, don't y'all say nothing. Let the people complain, but y'all better not complain. Yeah, buddy. Oh, people, this thing is deep. By 1985, the Arab oil-producing bloc of nations had, now notice I said, by 1985. By 1985, the Arab-producing country, oil-producing countries had deposited $1 trillion in United States Bank. This is 2001. Now, here's the problem, y'all. The concentration of wealth in the hands of a few big banks in the United States, whose ultimate power is or may be held by Middle East nations, spells control. Dig this. As I told you, 90% of OPEC's oil money has been handled by 6 banks in the United States. Now, when I say this, it's going to really blow your mind. 6 banks in the United States have handled over 90% of OPEC's oil money, and 5 of those banks is in New York. And where you think those 5 banks are? World Trade Center facility.
Now, my people, with that being said, when it comes to people like Dr. Ray Hagins, let me tell you something about this guy. You know, even though he's criticized by a lot of, different people, but like I said, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I've done my research on this guy, and come on, man, this guy cannot be denied. Because if you think about it, this guy used to actually be a reverend preacher, whatever you want to call it. In other words, he used to preach the word. Okay? Not saying that this guy is not a God-fearing man, because I'm sure he's still that. It's just that he decided to start preaching the real truth. Excuse me, y'all, the real truths of the world that we live in today, because that's why I can really relate to this guy, because I've been trying to do that all along since I started my channel. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes I might blog about, when it comes to the entertainment of celebrity gossip, but that's only every now and then. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, my people, make sure you guys stay tuned, because I got one more part that's coming to this video. In other words, it's really the second, part to Mr. Ray Hagins, as he, concludes, some of his real truths of the world, speeches that he's given. And I know that this guy's done his research. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, my people, with that being said, I just wanted to thank everybody who decided to stop and rock with that boy, Lamont, that way, Jones, this way. You dig? And with that being said, my good people, may the Most High continue to bless you and all your families. You know what I'm saying? While you're out there on that paper chase, swimming with them sharks, trying to provide for your families during a rat race, you dig? Even though we are going through a worldwide crisis / pandemic. In other words, if you are one of those people that they are still allowing to work, make all the money that you can during this pandemic, because you will definitely need it. Anyway, my people, like I said, make sure you guys stay tuned for the second segment that I got coming to this video, and it's coming real soon. Because believe me when I tell you, my people, you are most definitely gonna want to see this last segment to how Dr. Hagins really nailed it when it comes to the real truths of the world that we live in today. I mean, he really nails it and really lets it be known why the things like what we're going through now, he really lets you know why these type of things really happen on this last segment. Believe me. So you're definitely not going to want to miss this second segment. With that being said, if you felt like you was a person that was, actually able to gain any extra knowledge from this video, make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, my good people, make sure you guys stay tuned. Till next time, my people. Peace. Peace out.